Hi, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. So I don't think I've officially announced it in a video yet, but I am a co-host for the Amazing Readathon that was created by Bree from 4 Paws in a Book, and she put so much work into this. This is really her baby. And I'm co-captaining Team Fantasy with Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy, who just can't seem to escape me. So she's stuck with me all the time and I love it. And I'd really love it if you joined our team. You don't have to read primarily fantasy to be on the team. You just get some bonus points doing that. I personally won't be reading fantasy the entire time because I just can't. I get burned out. The thing about this readathon is it's based on the Amazing Race, so we get our prompts dropped to us throughout the entire month, so there's not a lot of planning you can do, but there are sightseeing prompts, and that is where this video is coming in handy. There are a list of many prompts, different ways to get bonus points, and you can only do these prompts after you completed the main prompt. It all makes sense if you watch Bree's video. There's a lot going on with this readathon and it's so amazing, and Bree explains it perfectly, so I will leave a link to her announcement down below. So please join us on that on the Discord. You kind of do have to be part of the Discord to participate because that's where the prompts are dropping and all that. It's a great community over there. If you're new to Discord and need some help, message me anywhere. Kristen Craves Books anywhere. Instagram is probably the easiest. KristenCravesBooks@gmail.com. If you want to email me, I will try and help you. I'm not the greatest at Discord, but I've been around long enough. I can help you if you're new to it and you want to join us. So let me know. But one of the sightseeing prompts is books with food. Books involving food. I think you get 200 points for that. I plan to do a few more recommendation videos, at least a couple, to help you, but this one is the one that spoke to me first because my two favorite subgenres are cozy fantasy and foodie romances. Obviously both have great food descriptions. I think cozy fantasy is really known for having lengthy food descriptions where you can almost smell everything. Bakeries are a big thing, so baking's huge in cozy fantasy, and foodie romances, it's right in the title. Any romance that has to do with baking, restaurants, a coffee shop, anything like that, I eat it up. I love it. I have a video in the past talking about foodie romances. One of my favorite things. You don't get as many these days, but they're still coming out, and I have a lot of great recommendations for you. And I tried to break it down into a few categories. So you're gonna get fantasy, romance, and I think I have one mystery on this list, so let's get into it. Let's start with my favorite Tea Kingfisher. So one of my favorite books of all time is A Wizard's Guide to Defensive Baking. This is more middle grade, so it's perfect for a readathon because it reads quickly, but it's one of those middle grades that I think will be enjoyed by the target audience, but also is great for adults. Myself as an adult ate this up, loved it. If you cannot tell from baking in the title and this gingerbread man on the cover, there's a lot of great food description in this one. Our main character is Mona. She is, I think, 12 or 13, and she is working in her family's bakery. She goes down the stairs one morning and she finds a dead body, and she has to figure out what's going on. And she has a familiar who is a sourdough starter named Bob, who like lives in the basement she has to feed, and he's kind of grouchy, so there you go, there's some food there. And at one point she has to build up an army of gingerbread men, so more food. So it's full of food that comes to life, food that's really part of the plot and part of the action in this one, and I just love everything about it. I love the commentary that Tea Kingfisher's making in this one, and like food galore in this one. It's like my ultimate recommendation for books involving food. And then another book with baking right there in the title is Baking Bad by Kim M. Watt. This is the first book in a long cozy mystery series, but it is fantasy because there are dragons. This is following a group of women within a women's institute, and they talk a lot in the beginning about how phenomenal their cakes are. They're really into baking. They get together, they show off their baking, but then one day somebody is murdered by a poisoned cupcake. So not only are there great food descriptions in here, the weapon of choice is a cupcake, and it's brilliant. And you get the dragon's thoughts. It's just so funny how the dragons are integrated into the story. You get the perspective of the investigator as well, and she's really interesting. This is the start of a really good series. I really need to continue on with it. It says a tranquil village, a poisoned cupcake, a murdered vicar. All you need to know. I love this. Again, reads quickly. There are audiobooks available, so one I highly recommend. Look how shiny this cover is, but cupcakes and dragons, what more do you need? We're not gonna stay here too long because you don't need me to recommend you Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I just feel like I couldn't leave it off. Viv is our main character. She's a retired orc barbarian. She opens a coffee shop. There's lots of great baked goods. Look on the cover. Lots of great small town setting and found family and all that kind of stuff. And you're seeing the villagers of this small town discover coffee for the first time and the baking and everything, and I ate it up. I thought it was adorable. So if you haven't read this yet, now's the perfect time. And then the last one I want to recommend is one that I didn't personally love, but a lot of people do. They're on KU, and there's no denying that there's a lot of great food conversations in this book, and that is The House Witch. I just read this for our witchy book club, the Black Hat Book Coven. I will leave our discussion down below. I liked it the least. Everybody else seemed to really like it, so you might like this as well. And our main character is a chef within a royal family. So we spent a lot of time in the kitchen. He's very passionate about food. That was probably my favorite part of it all, talking about the comforts of food, what he's gonna make for everybody and things like that. So a lot of the story takes place in this one room. It's really the heart of the story is this kitchen, is his job and his passion. He is a house witch, so everything that he does is domestic. All his powers center around the home and the kitchen and food being a big part of that. So I liked that part of the story. So if this has been on your radar for a while now, now's a good time. I love the cover. Obviously there's some food references on there as well. So you can always turn to cozy fantasy if you're looking for some food descriptions and you want something a little bit quicker, something to break up maybe some of the larger fantasies that you're reading. Obviously graphic novels are another thing that are perfect for a readathon. Two of my favorite graphic novels of all time, the ones I hype up on this channel constantly, happen to have food in it. I don't know what it is. This is just something that I love, and these are the two best graphic novels I have ever read. And the first one actually has food that's alive, so I had to include it. This is Garlic and the Vampire, and just look at Garlic, our main character, is alive and is obviously food, and his best friend is a carrot, and we just see all these vegetables and all of their relationships. There's a celery in here who I absolutely hate. He's terrible and I hate him so much, but it's just a cute story. Obviously there's a vampire. Our main character is Garlic. You can see where this is going. He is shy and quiet and more timid, but he's sent to save the day since vampires have an aversion to garlic, and I just thought it was so adorable. And there's a second book, Garlic and the Witch, that you have to read as well. Very short, perfect for a readathon. The food's the characters. It's everything. I love this so much. And then my favorite graphic novel of all time, The Princess and the Grilled Cheese Sandwich by Diane Minaez. This was one of my best books of last year, and I think that's the first time a graphic novel has ever made my best books of the year. This was in the top 10. I love this so much. I think that this is fantastic. Obviously, grilled cheese sandwich is right in the title. There's a very delicious looking grilled cheese on here. Everything in this book is named after cheese, so if you're a cheese lover, you're gonna love this, and you just kind of have to take it for what it is. It's campy, it's fun. Our main character is Lady Camembert, and in the beginning of the story, her father is ill, and this is in a time where when the father passes away, the daughters get nothing, so he either wants her to get married, but he knows that's not what she wants, so instead he tells her to pretend that she is a boy, to leave the town so that she can get the inheritance, and that's what she does. So she moves to this town that also has a cheese name, and that's not coming to me at the moment. What is it called? Kingdom of Fromage, of course, and that's where she meets Princess Brie. They have a friendship that maybe becomes something more, and I thought this was the cutest thing. They bond over eating grilled cheese sandwiches. Okay, moving on to foodie romances. These are all contemporary. The first one is The Romance Recipe by Ruby Barrett. This is an ARC I got. It was sent to me randomly. I didn't request or anything, but I picked it up because I love the cover, and I thought this was so good. If you're looking for food descriptions, maybe that aren't so whimsical, not the fantasy kind, something more serious, and you're interested in how restaurants work, this would be a good one because it is romance between the owner of a restaurant and her head chef, and it's super steamy, super steamy, but you also get behind the scenes looks into the world of what it's like to run a restaurant and how hard that is and the struggle that comes along with that. And then there's also an added element to this that comes in the second half where they're approached to be on a TV show like on Food Network. So I thought that was a really nice element. So much of this revolves around food, but really this is a steamy romance at its core. And if that's what you're looking for, this is a good one. I don't own the rest of these, which is kind of a shame, but I tend to listen to these on audiobook or read them on Kindle. I get a lot of e-arcs of these and things like that because if I see a foodie romance, I'm gonna request it on NetGalley. But the first one is When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This is the only Sarah Adams I've read. I do own the sequel to this. I need to get to it. But I read this in a time where I was in a deep slump, and I listened to this in an afternoon, and that's what I needed. But you can tell from the cover that there's some food in this. The hero in this, his family actually owns like a pie store. They bake pies, they're renowned for their pies. It's also a small town setting, and it's a romance between a celebrity and a normal person. She is extremely famous. She ends up breaking down in this small town. Our hero helps her out, and she stays with him. So obviously there's a conflict between her being this really famous pop star and the struggle she's having with that, not knowing if that's what she really wants, and him having had a long distance relationship in the past and not wanting that again, but them having this great chemistry. So the romance is more at the forefront of this one. We don't get a ton of conversations about baking, but there's a scene where they bake pies together, and she's not the greatest chef. I think this is the one, I'm pretty sure, where she tries to make pancakes, and for some reason that scene is like ingrained in my mind, and you can just visualize it. This would make a great movie. But there are some like iconic scenes revolving around food in this book, and it's just a really fun romance. I talk about the series so much at this point, but the Holiday with the Wong series by Jackie Lau, you can see from all of the covers that obviously they revolve around food because they each take place during a different holiday, and obviously a lot of us associate holidays with different foods. So the first one is Thanksgiving, and then we have Christmas, then we have Chinese New Year, then we have Valentine's Day. Donuts are a big thing in here, especially in the Valentine's Day one, and lots of references to Tim Hortons in particular, so if you're Canadian, you might like that. So they all kind of connect over food in different ways. The families come together and have meals, so each book follows a different sibling. In the first book, the family's really meddling with all their love lives, so they go to Thanksgiving and they all have dates set up for them, and we see how that plays out throughout the books. The first one is just a romance between these two. They meet in Toronto, they have like a one-night stand, and then he shows up and she is the date for his brother. And then the second one is a second chance romance. They were college sweethearts. They drive home together from Toronto to this small town, and they reconnect, and obviously they have snacks and there's food along the way. The third one is a fake dating situation. It's friends to lovers. They are friends at the bar. He wants to bring a date to Chinese New Year because he doesn't want to be set up again like he was at Thanksgiving, and that just went terribly, so there's that. And then the last one is brother's best friend, and like a secret romance, forbidden romance kind of thing. But lots of food throughout all of these because obviously the holidays. Fake It Till You Bake It by Jamie Wesley is one of my favorites, and there's a lot of great tropes in this one. Obviously fake dating is huge in this one. It's a sports romance as well, and there is a reality TV aspect to this one. So our hero was on a show much like The Bachelor. She was proposed to at the end and she turns the guy down, so all of America hates her. The hero in this one has a bakery, more cupcakes with his fellow NFL players, so they're all currently in the league, but they also have this cupcakes shop, and I love that. So all the other romances are gonna follow the different guys, and I have an e-arc of the second one, and I can't tell you how excited I am. I'm hoping to read that one for my foodie romance bonus points in June, so I'm saving it. But I cannot wait. I'm so excited. So that is really cute. So they don't get off to a good start. I think she kind of insults him. I forget how it actually goes down, but it's not a good meeting at first. And then the two of them kind of decide to fake date because it helps her reputation and it gets him exposure for this business and everything. There's some other complications, but I loved it. I thought it was fantastic, adorable, obsessed with the cover, not gonna lie. Now those are all pretty lighthearted, which makes sense. Those are perfect for a readathon. That's kind of what you want if you want to get through things quickly. But if you're looking for something a little more hard-hitting, I have the perfect YA contemporary romance. It's called Somewhere Between Bitter and Sweet by Lichen Zen Kem. And this is about a girl whose family owns a restaurant and she really wants to take over the business. This is what she wants with her life, but her parents want something different from her. They want her to go to college and have a successful career. That's probably like a doctor or a lawyer. I forget specifically what they wanted from her, but she really is in love with cooking and food and the restaurant and everything. And she has a romance with somebody who works there. And they kind of have to keep it under wraps. And then there's a lot of conversations about being an immigrant. We see a lot of outside conflict. I think what I love about this romance in particular is that the two of them as a couple, they're really strong. They're very supportive, very respectful. They don't have issues internally. It's external conflict, which is something I prefer in my romance and really works in this case. But again, it all takes place in this restaurant. You see her really fighting for what she wants, and what she wants is to work there, to take over this restaurant. That's what she's passionate about. So that really comes through, and I just love to read about characters who have any kind of passion, but cooking and food in particular is something that I really enjoy reading about. Don't know why, and this is perfect for that. And then my last category, I don't know why, I read a lot of books. They're romances most of the time, but they also have food competitions. So I think that this is probably thanks to the Great British Bake Off, but a lot of these books have that feel where we're in a baking or cooking competition and the competitors end up having some kind of romance. I love that trope. always seems to work for me, and I have quite a few to recommend. So the first one is by one of my favorite authors. This is Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. This is the first book of theirs that I read, and I will read everything now. I think they're amazing. This follows these two characters. They're on a cooking show, so not baking in this case. Think more like Food Network than the Great British Bake Off, and they end up having this deep connection, and we see their romance, but we also go through the whole competition, which I absolutely loved. So they're also competitors, which brings up some conflict obviously, and we see the actual competitions. Like I remember there was one where they had to milk cows, which I thought was hilarious, and we see people get kicked off, them forming friendships and like being frenemies with certain characters, and then the reactions from the audience and who people are reading for, and the family conflicts as well. Dahlia has just gone through divorce, so she's trying to heal from that. She's not sure if she's ready for a relationship. And then London just came out as non-binary, so they're on the show to raise awareness and money for the queer community. So they both have their own goals, but they really come together, and it's a slow burn, and I thought it was brilliant. I loved it. And then there are two other books within this series, but they're not really a series. They're separate romances, but these characters have cameos, so we see these characters again and they grow, and we really see their romance in those other books as well, and I just love this next one. Probably could have been in the cozy fantasy category because really it's a cozy fantasy, but the food competition is the heart of the story. It was my favorite part, so I threw it in this category, and it's called The Fellowship of Bakers and Magic by Jay Penner. This follows a human who is in a world of orcs and fae and different mythological creatures, and humans are at the bottom of the hierarchy in this world because obviously they are powerless. And our main character is now an orphan. Her parents died when she was younger, and she lives in their home, and in order to make ends meet, she bakes, and she brings all of her baked goods to this market and sells them. And she is an incredible baker, and she has these neighbors. They're a married couple, and they are, I think they're orcs, and they really support her. They kind of see her as a daughter, but she's got walls up from the trauma of losing her parents, and one of them enters her into this really renowned food competition. Somebody shows up on her door to escort her to the competition. She can't believe it. She fights it. She doesn't want to go, but in the end she's convinced. She ends up having a romance with the person who showed up at her door, but really when she's at the competition, it's so sweet. She makes best friends with fellow contestants. We see her really thrive. They really get into details about what she's baking. I wanted to eat it all. It's really her thriving and overcoming a lot and really excelling at what she does without magic. And it was so good. And there's a lot of politics. Obviously, a lot of people don't want her there. Humans never been in the competition before. So there's a lot of layers to this story as well, and I just thought it worked. And the food is like a highlight. You can almost picture in your mind. I can almost sit here and smell it. It was just so well described. So of all the books on this list, if you're really wanting good food descriptions, I think I would turn to this one. Alexis Hall has a book like this, and it's called Rosalind Palmer Takes the Cake, and this one is very, very, very much Great British Bake Off. So if that's what you're looking for, it definitely has that vibe. So obviously our main character is Rosalind, and she enters this competition, and she's a single mother, and she really needs to win, and we see her go in the competition. The romance in this one, I can't even spoil who it is with. That is all I will say. She's formed some interesting relationships while on this show. We also see her best friend. We see how she progresses throughout the competition and some of the consequences of that. And there's just something about the way that Alexis Hall writes his characters that works for me and I love. And this is the start of a series. The second book is called Paris Dalincourt is About to Crumble, and obviously this has food in it. Look at the cake. I own this one, so I could also use that one for this challenge, for this prompt, though you can only do the prompt once. So it'll be between that one and Legends in the Baking. That's a sequel to Fate Till You Bake It. So we'll see how I feel in the moment. Another really cute one is Battle Royale by Lucy Parker. This is different than your typical food competition because it's not televised. I don't believe, I can't remember it being televised. It might have been. It starts off with her on a show like Great British Bake Off, and it's her romance with one of the judges who's kind of like Paul Hollywood, but he's like got a chip on his shoulder and he's kind of a grump. And the two of them end up competing to bake the wedding cake for this royal wedding. So she's more fun, her cakes are more modern and colorful and things like that, and he's more traditional. So the bride has an idea of wanting something more modern, wanting her cakes. The royal family obviously is more traditional. So they're in competition, and then they also fall in love, and I loved it so much. And there's also a sequel to this one, though I don't know if food is involved in that one. And then lastly, this was a 3-star book for me, but I still found it was a fun time. It's a really quick read. This is The Golden Spoon by Jessa Maxwell. This is a food competition show, but it's also like a murder mystery. So again, Great British Bake Off, but it takes place in this manor, and it's in the manor of one of the judges of the show and like the creator of the show. And we see contestants being killed off, and we're following different perspectives and their life experience and why they're on the show. So we get some of their backstories as well, which I thought was really interesting. And this is all happening during this competition show, and people are being sabotaged. It's not super twisty, like not a lot of great reveals, but I thought it was a good solid time. Not the strongest book ever, but good food description, something unique. And if you're looking for something that's not a fantasy, not a romance, this is a good one. So I had to throw it on here. So those are my recommendations for books involving food. Let me know if you're joining the Amazing Readathon, what team you're on. Let me know what prompt you want to see recommendations from me for next, because it's a long list and I have a few ideas, and I will link the Discord down below. Once again, please join us, and again, reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd love to help you if I can. And thank you for your support as always. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now.